It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality Live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.
Good afternoon and welcome back to another episode of The Nonprofits, the show where we discuss news and topics from the day from a skeptical humanist perspective. My name is Jason Sherwood, and today is an honor and a privilege to be with you all. For today, we have a very, very special announcement coming up later, so please stay tuned for that. We got a great panel here today, and I am going to start from my far left over there. Richard Gilliver, how are you doing today?
Jason Sherwood, I am very, very well, thank you. I'm looking forward to this. Josh is one of my best friends in the world, so it's a pleasure to be on with him all the time. And of course, working with you, it's always great fun. So let's get it going.
Oh, come on. Anyway, and Josh Entner, this is my first time working with you directly. Normally, I'm behind the scenes there. So how are you doing this day?
I'm doing great. Good to actually see you on camera this time. And Richard's okay. I got nothing really wrong to say about Richard, so it'll be okay walking him through this episode with you.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I think we're going to have a pretty good time. We got a lot of really great topics. But before we get into that, I do want to say that this show is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the separation of religion and government and promoting positive atheism. Today, we are going to be talking about Jewish leaders who oppose the Sunshine Protection Act. Then we are going to talk about how the Pope is kind of going on a little forgiveness tour, asking the Indigenous people of Canada for forgiveness of all the abuses that have been coming to light. Then we're going to take a little look back at the formation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And then we are going to talk about how dogs are just too damn good for people. So, as with all of our shows, today's links and topics and news that we discuss are going to be available down below. And remember that if you want to come to the show prepared, you can check out the Nonprofits Facebook fan page every Friday night for a list of articles ahead of time. I personally am making sure that they get in there, and hopefully, it's beneficial to everybody who wants to participate. So let's go ahead and move into our first segment. And Josh, I think you wanted to take this one.
Yeah, I got this one. My family's Jewish, actually, so this was an interesting one for me to choose. Finally, we're getting rid of daylight savings time. Don't have to worry about springing forward or falling back. And I think most of the country was excited to hear about this. I know I was, because I hate the time changes so much. It's just less dark or more darkness, more depression for me. But there is a particular group that is not taking this well, and that's the Jewish community is taking this very poorly, because apparently it's going to get in the way of their morning prayers that are supposed to be done just before sunrise. And that's going to get in the way of school and work for them. So it's kind of at the point of the needs of the many, the majority of the population of America, going against the needs of the few, with the Jewish population worrying about their prayers and whether or not they deserve to be taken into accord with this issue.
All right.
I think that I can't speak for the US, but we have daytime saving here as well. And it seems to me that this is very much a knee-jerk reaction on that. That's how it's come across from the Jewish community. It's kind of like, oh no, that'll interrupt us. That'll interrupt our daily routine. We can't have that. Let's push back against that. And they've come up with the kind of lousiest excuses. You know, they talked about having children walking to school and it being a danger for them getting to school because of these proposed changes. But you know, as I say, in Britain we have daylight changing, and kids walk to school all the time in the dark in the winter. I did a little bit of digging on this, and I actually found an article in the Huffington Post regarding the kids walking to school, and I couldn't find anything whatsoever that suggested kids are in any more danger going to school in the dark, no matter what season it was. The danger wasn't with kids going to school; it came from kids walking home from school, and and knife crime. And this is Britain, by the way, not America. And there was no seasonal variation whatsoever to that danger, but all the danger seemed to be on the back end of school. I couldn't find anything at all regarding people going to school, so it just seems like a lot of hot air that's coming out.
Well, the other thing is that they also used the farmer's excuse, which I always love. I mean, look, the workforce has changed over the past 100 years. I don't know if anybody has noticed that, but we have flexible schedules. Corporate offices, they have their 9 to 5 existence, and farmers, they can get up whenever they want. They can go to bed whenever they want. They don't need to be hardwired to a clock. Most of us don't need to be hardwired to a clock. And we see a lot of accommodations thanks to, like Equal Opportunity Act that says you cannot discriminate somebody even schedule wise because of their religion. That's why Muslims get to pray the many times a day that they need to. So all of this, you're trying to make excuses for something that will most likely be fixed by corporate entities or and any other entities that will employ people. Um,
I
what else do you have, Josh?
I don't know if you can exactly count on corporate to take care of them for that, especially if they're not hired yet, if they're Jewish faith, not hired yet. Like I'm all for this change in daylight savings times, but I want to give the Jewish people their fair shake here. And I think that if they know that this is a problem and that they're gonna need to pray in the middle of their work shift because they can't do it before they get to work, or if it's going to interrupt school time, which is something that the article brought up, I do think that they do have some complaints that are valid if you want to be taking into consideration their faith. And I know that employers, like if they know that a woman's pregnant, they might not want to hire her because she'll be going off real soon. So like they're not supposed to take these things into consideration when they're hiring people. They're supposed to get the best workers, but they can always come up with another reason for why they're not hiring this person. So if there's a Jewish person wanting to get hired, he needs to pray a lot. There's definitely that's going to be a ding against him in the hiring process. If he's already in the workforce, they got to accommodate him. But you got to take into account all the other factors for people constantly changing jobs now.
Wouldn't that work even under the current system, though? Because I think, don't correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not 100% on this. Jewish people have to pay 3 times a day. So I think the second one would still fall within the working day anyway. So if that was going to play a factor in it, the kind of employing it, that would work regardless of this daylight saving or not.
Well, then you're adding another issue into their prayer time into work. So that does actually still affect it, whether or not they already have a set prayer time in the workday.
But they don't have a set prayer time because this is all based upon the sun, which I mean, I didn't know Judaism were sun worshippers. That at least that's what it sounds like when you're specifically going after a particular time after the sun rises or when the sun sets. So, what do we do about Jewish people who are in far northern climates? Yeah, this is
This is
and
America Central, though.
well, and that is America Central, but we do have Alaska, which is way north, and I don't know the Jewish population in those latitudes, but I would still think that can be an issue. like this is probably not as much of an issue for Jewish people down in Florida. There still can be, admittedly, but this is going to affect more like Jewish people in New York than in Arizona, California, things like that.
Yeah, and they can't be expected. And again, I'm all for this. They can't be expected to move. But my biggest thing is whether or not they're this tiny issue for this tiny population of people. Because my family's Jewish. I never even heard of this issue before. Like this is like the really Orthodox Judaism. It sounds like, and so it's an even smaller population than just the Jewish population. So I can understand their issues. I can take pity on their issues, but I also don't think that if we were put this into a vote instead of them just passing this through the Senate like they did, I think that it would have passed and they would have had no leg to stand on. So I don't think they have. They can complain. It can be an inconvenience. I feel pity for them, but it's not something that I would ever change the results of.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of accommodation for people of different faiths. You have a wire that goes around large portions of New York so that Jewish people can push an elevator button, because that's technically work unless you're within this special field that they've created around. And it's, otherwise they would have to have elevator stop on every floor during the Sabbath. And nobody really wants that. Uh, Richard?
The other issue I've wanted to bring up, I wrote a lot about it in notes. I went to health.com on this, and actually more sunlight is better for people with depression and stuff like that. Like not like more darkness isn't going to lead to people like with fallen into depression or whatever. But if you already have the issues, it's going to exacerbate mental health issues. And this is helping a much larger portion of the population if they're getting more sunlight when after they get off of work, instead of just like you go to work when it's dark, you get out of work and it's dark. And that's going to lead to people feeling terrible. Well, there's nothing that backs up why they need to, if they had scientific things that their God actually was listening and needed to get his prayers in right before daylight, then they might have a leg to stand on. But there's scientific evidence that says that this does help depression, getting more sunlight. Human beings are almost plants in this, and that we need the sunlight, and it makes us a whole lot happier, or a lot of us a lot happier. I know I get seasonal depression every single winter, and I would like to see as much sunlight and get as little of that as possible.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I know Richard, that you have you do have daylight savings time as much as we do, but I've also seen that your empire is been trying to get rid of it to varying degrees of unsuccess. Are you seeing similar issues amongst the Jewish population that you have, or is it just
I
you're
mean,
too busy with Brexit?
to be honest, where I live particularly doesn't have a large Jewish community at all. We have a large Muslim community, and there's no issues whatsoever around that, and anything to do with daylight savings, as far as I'm aware, within that community. Regarding the kind of Jewish praying, uh, one thing that struck me about this is that Jewish law, because I had a little bit of dig into this, and Jewish law actually allows you to miss prayer anyway, so you can make up for it later in the day. So it seems to be just hot air. This whole thing, it seems to me to be a kind of uh, oh, that's going to inconvenience us a little bit. We don't want
Is,
that. Let's kind of
is
protest about it.
is that across the board on Judaism? Because like I, despite the fact that I have
As far
family,
as I'm
I'm
aware,
not an
yeah.
expert.
I mean, you're the one with the Jewish family, not me. So I don't know. As far as I'm aware, it's that's in Jewish law itself that says if you can, and there are similar things within Islam that say if you miss prayers, you can make up for them later, as long as there's an actual reason and you're not just trying to skip out of them because you don't want to do it. You can actually make up for that.
So yeah, I mean, this does seem it's a lot to do about nothing, especially when they go into the school excuses and they go into the farmer excuses. We've heard this 1,000 different times, and it then boils down to, well, it's what we've always done, and then you actually look into what it actually is. And no, it isn't what has always been done. It was proposed, early in the revolutionary times, and then it was brought out, you know, it, after World War II, and it was supposed to fix a problem of energy consumption. But unfortunately, the way that we've used energy and the way that we do work and everything else has, again, it's changed over the past 100 years, and we need to get with times that are more modern. Josh?
Yeah,
Religions have always had to adjust for the world, anyways. Like they do, kicking and screaming for any kind of social issue. They can do it, getting booted into it with this new law. I don't really see any problems here. They're definitely gonna get inconvenience, but I'm sure they'll come up with a way to get around it. Maybe they pray to God, he'll come up with the solution for them to get past this daylight savings nightmare.
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, if
that
it's
was
so important, then ask God for longer days, or ask God for a better job. I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm of the same mind that this is. It seems all about inconvenience and not change, and we do live in a world of change. That is. uh, Sorry, Josh. Go on.
they are absolutely entitled to fight it, but I don't really see anything coming of them fighting it. Like I would never take away their right to complain about it. Like I'm a complainer, I get it. Anything inconveniences me, I'm going to take it all the way to the top. But and the results of this are going to be very minimal because nobody but them cares about it this way. Everybody I know, and again, I know that's a surface level statistic, but everybody I know is all for this change. So like and everywhere I look online about this, it's like, yes, finally get away with the clock change because everybody hates it when we lose that hour of sleep once a year. So I'm definitely sympathetic. I don't sound like it, but that's just the way my voice is. They got problems, but this is going to happen. They're not going to be able to overturn. I'd be very surprised if they overturn this, and then I think the rest of the country would be like fighting for it to happen again.
I still hope it happens. I'm not. I'm skeptical until I actually see it happen, because we have seen bills come and go. We've seen areas like Indiana and Arizona that didn't have it, and I think Arizona voted and is now back under daylight savings time. The time changes and all that. It gets to
I have friends and family in Arizona. They don't change the time; they stick with it.
Okay. Somewhere, and I'll admit my ignorance here. I don't remember exactly where. Maybe it's Indiana that went back to changing clocks. But yeah, it everything when you look at schedules, when you look at computing, because I'm definitely into computers, and the changing of the time really messes with things. We've learned to overcome that, but and I'm also getting from the booth that Indiana doesn't change. Somewhere they didn't, and now they did. I don't remember.
Put it
I'm
in the
gonna,
comments.
yeah, put it in the comments. Let me know. Tell me how wrong I am. So, Richard, what else have you got on this?
I think this seems to me. I've said this a couple of times to be a case of a lot of shouting and arm waving and things of that nature. It seems, and the long and the short of it, as you've both alluded to, the getting rid of daylight saving is a good idea. It's going to benefit everybody, and it seems like there's a small number, and I don't even, like as Josh said earlier, I don't even think this is the entire Jewish population. This seems to be a very, very small number, even within that population. The trying to like shout very loud and arm wave and trying to use this to kind of elicit political change to benefit them, and I don't think it's going to work. I
Okay.
don't think there's any need for it. You know, That's it, really.
Yeah.
And one thing we haven't even talked about is the fact that more daylight when people are coming off work probably means less car accidents. There are people that, like me, I don't see very well driving at night, even with the glasses sometimes. That I know people are less likely to be drunk driving before the sun goes down. So this could actually be on top of depression, along with those factors. You're probably saving more lives and just inconveniencing a community. This is absolutely a good thing.
Yeah, the science definitely backs up the fact that getting rid of daylight savings time, and to be clear, I don't I don't know if we should go to just 100% standard time, or if we should, just keep daylight savings time as it is. I don't know. I don't know which is the best way to go. But I do know that whatever we do is just not stopping, but holding the clocks at the same hour is definitely much more of a benefit than it is anything else. And we don't need to be tied down by what was. But let's get some very final words in on this one, and so that we can move on. Richard.
Yeah, whatever you do in whatever quarter of life it is going to be somebody who doesn't like it. And this is, to me, is
True.
one of those situations where, the majority of people are, yeah, that's fine, that's brilliant, that's works absolutely well, and you've got a very small minority of people who don't even seem to be giving very good reasons. It's not like they're coming out with the best reasons and they've got a really good point to make. It's just like, oh yeah, this is going to inconvenience us a little bit, and we don't like it, so we're going to kick up a fuss.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Josh, and final words for you.
I think mental health is more important than a religious doctrine that hasn't been proven. So yeah, let's make this happen. Let's uh, apologize to any of your Jewish friends. Like, hey, sorry, I was all for this. Uh, pat him on the back. Have a good day. Have your prayer a little later. Apparently, you can bankroll them for later on in the day. Uh, yeah, it's gonna happen. Sorry about it.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good point where we can. I think we've taken enough time on this.
Huh.
So I would like to, before we go on to the next segment, I would like to thank both our veteran viewers and our new viewers here, and new subscribers, for getting us over the 10,000 subscriber mark. What this allows us to do is it allows us to run a fundraiser. So if you look underneath the chat, you're going to see a donate now button. And all of your donations, 100% of that, goes to the ACA. YouTube and Google do not take any kind of cut, and it is one of the best ways to support us. Other ways that you can support is just by something simple, clicking that like button. That really helps us, giving us a comment. You can also join the channel, become a member of the channel for as little as 99 cents a month. You get a badge, and you get some interesting little emoticons that allows you to, show your love for the nonprofits. And we also have a channel that houses all the shows in the ACA in podcast form. Visit tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. There you can listen to all the latest episodes of The Atheist Experience, Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted, Secular Sexuality, even the flagship of the ACA here, all under one channel. On the off chance that you don't want to see all of this. So our next segment, unfortunately, we don't have quite an interstitial for this one yet, but it's an ongoing segment that we like to do called Pope Watch. And Josh, I think you wanted to take this one.
Yeah, because I'm just greedy for the articles today. This is the Pope finally is making they call it a historical apology for the abuses done to the Indigenous people of Canada. This article is by Nicole Winfield. This is something that we've been following, I think, since last summer when we found all the unmarked graves in like the Catholic schools over in Canada, full of the Indigenous people that were abused in these schools that they were forced to go to. And now the Pope after it's been like outed into the press, has decided that he's going to make an apology for it. And despite the fact that I take it cynically, but that's just my nature, they seem to take it in Canada with a little bit more heart, and they felt like the apology was earned. He mentions that it was a genocide of their culture, and it's acknowledging the horrible things that had happened under the Catholic reign. But is it enough? To me, this doesn't this yeah, it's a first step. And you every horrible thing, if you're gonna fix it, you gotta have that first step to fix it. But I just know the track record on the Catholic Church, and once it stops being something that's good for the press, and they've gotten the word out that they're doing a good thing, it kind of seems to fall away from the newspapers, and I don't see like real progress happening. But that's just me. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, this I kind of I don't want to call you cynical, but I share that cynicism. So I was in a conversation the other day with somebody, and I brought up the abuse in the Catholic Church, and they kind of pushed back on me a little bit and asked me why I'd done that. And this is very, very simple. It's that I cannot think of another organization in the world which is so prominent and so large, which has abused so many children in one way or another. And that this is the counterbalance to this apology that we've got to look at. You know, I commend the Pope for making this apology. I do kind of think it's a bit of an half-assed attempt to apologize, but he's gone there and he's done it. It's better than his 2009 effort with First Nation people, where he expressed sorrow and for the anguish that some members of the Catholic Church had caused. And
that was Benedict that did that in 2009.
Right, sorry. But yeah, this is a step further, and certainly the First Nation people who were there and at this apology and met the Pope in person.
Well, they're meeting him in person. Like, he's coming over to Canada, I think in July, to apologize in person to the families that were affected by this, and that's good. In person is a big deal, but and I'm not going to write him off right off the bat and say that he's not going to do what needs to be done. But even these people that were like crying over this apology because it meant so much to them, there was 150,000 Native children that were forced to attend these schools, and the abuse was rampant. It's just beatings for speaking their native language. This was them trying to wipe out the native culture, and an apology isn't enough. I'm not sure how they make up for this, because it seems to be one of those acts that's completely unforgivable, but definitely more than apologies need to be done.
Well, and I didn't even care for the initial apology, because I want to quote from Pope Francis himself, saying, "For the deplorable conduct of those members of the Catholic Church, I ask for forgiveness of the Lord." Okay? Now let's think about that. He's not asking for forgiveness of the people, of the victims, of those who had suffered from, decades and decades and decades of abuse. He is not asking for the forgiveness for the hundreds of years of abuses and violence and deaths, which is a lot to apologize for. I understand, but it's like, you're asking for forgiveness from your Lord, which we won't go into the whole. I mean, okay, yeah, we don't believe in them. That's neither here or there. But you're asking for the forgiveness from that first, so that you can have your conscience cleared. This is such, it's so great that he's asking for forgiveness for himself. For himself. Yeah, the other issue I had was with a Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, where it's like, this apology would not have happened, this is his words, without the long advocacy of survivors who journeyed to tell the truth directly to the institutions responsible and who recounted and relived their painful memories. And to that, I disagree. I absolutely disagree. I feel that this apology wouldn't have happened, as you said stated earlier, Josh, if the mass graves were not discovered. Nothing would have happened. It's only because it became a thing that they went forward with it.
No disagreement there, because if that wasn't found, I would appreciate this apology. Not that I need to appreciate it, they need to appreciate it up there. But I would appreciate this apology so much more if it had come from the Catholic Church before this had been a big story in the press. Like when those graves were found, it was all over the internet. I found it on Reddit, I found it on Facebook, it was on Twitter. There was no place that you can go where you were not hearing about this story. This is something that they absolutely had to address, just like when they had to address the child abuse that happened within their church. They addressed it, and then the follow up on it has not been great, though, because they released like names after the fact when there could be prosecutions and stuff like that. That's what I'm worried about is going to happen here. Is they're sly. They know how to like get around actual meaningful steps forward to fix things. They know how to save face. The Catholic Church is amazing at it, especially because they already have the backing of so many people on them, because the Catholic Church is a work for good. Like you can do horrible things, and everybody's already just waiting to forgive you. The Canadian people, the Indigenous people, they might not be in as forgiving of a mood if more steps aren't taken. But I think the press is more than willing to turn around and go and give the Pope a clap on the back for doing whatever little step he does. Because now the churches, they've shown how sorry they are about this, and they put it up for the whole world to see. And I want more meaningful things to happen, and I'm hoping this Pope's different, because I know, like, from the very early days of nonprofits, this show has had to rip apart the supposed good things that the Pope has done or said, and it's always been just like the tiniest bit of way to save face and like make it seem like they're a better church for today than they actually are.
Yeah, the church has got a great record of trying on damage limitation, and the fact is, I think they think they're untouchable. The Catholic numbers
It's because
are
they are.
growing.
That's
Yeah,
because they are.
Catholic numbers are growing worldwide, and or they were, certainly from the last lot of information I looked at, and they there seems to be no recompense, even financially. The money that's been paid out in damages to the First Nation peoples for over this incident, or these incidents, because it's been a number of cases, not just one school. This has happened all over Canada, and most of the money has come from the Canadian government. It's the Canadian government that are paying the damages, with a small contribution from the Catholic Church. Why? These were Catholic schools. This is Catholic abuse. Why isn't the Catholic Church paying the damages? Why is the Canadian government paying the damages?
Well, we don't know exactly what the steps they're going to do after this apology. Everybody that was interviewed basically said this is a meaningful step to them, but they always made sure to say it's a good first step. They never said like, you're forgiven, thank you so much, Pope, you are the best, Popey. But they instead they're expecting more from them. Whether or not the Catholic Church gives them more is a whole other story. So like, you can't like write them off for what Canada's done, what the Catholic Church has done yet. You can, if you don't see any progress happening, and I hope people are keeping a watch on this story to hold them accountable if they're not holding their end of the bargain here.
Absolutely, and that really is what's important. Is it's not what you say now or what you apologize for thousands of years of worth of whatever. It's also what you do next. And we've seen it time and time again where, whether it's moving bishops around that get abuse allegations in one area, and it's like, you go over here now. Or if we see it time and time again. And yeah, what you say, it sounds great. Oh, atheists can go to heaven. Like, we give a shit about that.
Well, you know what the thing was with that. They had to eventually accept the Lord in order to go into heaven. So like we were
Yeah, so it's still
potentially able to go to
stipulations.
heaven. Yeah, again, that's what I'm saying. I was saying earlier. The Catholic Church is slippery on this kind of a thing. They know they know a good soundbite when they hear it, and because of that article that you were talking about, or that time when the Pope said that, I remember so many people in atheist groups just like jumping for joy. Oh, this is always one of the good ones. He's not condemning us to hell, but he wasn't doing anything meaningful. He was just saying that atheists can go to heaven silently if they accept God. Like,
Yeah,
so like
big
you
ol'
can't.
asterisk.
Yeah, they're read the terms and conditions. This is not your iPhone. This is your eternal soul apparently, and you're still going to hell. All of us atheists apparently. So like, yeah, they're slippery, they're slick. The moving around of the abusers and the Catholic priests. I don't know what slippery thing they can do for this issue here, but I know there's people talking about it. Well, I can't say I know. I because I'm not omnipotent. I can't even say the word, but I feel like there's somebody trying to find wiggle room in order to like get them the easiest way out of this, where they still come off looking good to most of the world.
And I want to have this. I would give this little reminder about how these mass graves were found, or even the time frame. But friend of the show, Nate Smith, his father went to one of these schools, and he got to see the abuses firsthand. So this isn't something that happened way back in the 1800s. This is something that is far more recent than we would like to well, certainly they would like to admit.
According to the article, it was all the way back into the 1970s, and that's like that. My dad was alive back then, so like that's
Yep.
not that far back. That's only like one generation back for me. It's not ancient history, and then I feel like the Catholic Church had to have known about this for way longer than last summer. So yeah,
Absolutely.
this is new news. This is old news. I mean,
Lest Josh forget that I was alive back in the 1970s as well. I could have been, were I in Canada, easily been one of these children as well. It is very recent. It is very, it shouldn't be happening in this day and age. This isn't just a case of a child's stolen something and been reprimanded, and the church has tried to cover it up. This is thousands of deaths, thousands of cases of abuse, and it's something that only just now, 40 years later, is starting to come to light and become a thing. Last year, where which the case in this particular article, where the 215 graves were found, and they were only found through ground penetrating radar. This isn't something that the church has been open and honest about, and like trying to say, we made a mistake. We're sorry, guys. We accept this has gone off. Let's look at how we can build reparations moving forward. This is a case of, oh shit, we've been caught out. Let's try and make the best of it that we can.
Yeah, and they actually talked a little bit about the reparations themselves, and as Josh said earlier, the Canadian government paid a majority of that. Now, did the Catholic Church pay a little bit of it? Yeah, sure, whatever. It wasn't nearly enough, and without any kind of plan to move forward, I don't care about step one. Step one is a photo op. Step one is a completely facetious thing. Tell me what step two is.
it's definitely a necessity, but it's not a necessity that we need to care about. And this is this was a cultural genocide. These are the white invaders taking on the indigenous people here and eradicating all their culture. And that's still, you can do all the reparations that you want. That culture is still suffering because of it.
Yeah. So
Yeah, this is a case of
America is not the only ones who treated their indigenous people like garbage.
Nope.
no. This is a case of I think two halves, because we've got to take into account what the indigenous people feel about this and how they're accepting this. And we've got to look at the larger picture of what the Catholic Church itself needs to do moving forward in a more general basis.
Absolutely. So let's get some final words in on this segment. Josh?
My final words are: I'm very cynical. I want to be hopeful for this. I want to see some good happen in the world. So I'm cynical, but I'm like trying to push against that cynical wall. And I want some good to happen for us. They're not going to, this is not something that's going to be fixed. This is never going to be like oh, we're square kind of deal. But I'm hopeful that they can make some meaningful changes and some meaningful impact with what happened over in Canada.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm very I'm quite straightforward, and I think what needs to happen in the Catholic Church in general. And the Pope shouldn't be coming out making half-arsed apologies to people. If he wants to show a commitment, a real, true, and full commitment to ending abuse in the church, once an allegation has been proven against a member of the church, regardless of how high up the ladder they should be excommunicated immediately, and it's criminal damages sought against them by the church. Let the church stamp out its own shit, and then it wouldn't have to go forward trying to make excuses for and half-assed apologies for things that it's done. Sort out your own crap.
Yeah, don't protect your criminals, because they, once they see that they've got the protection of the cloth, they're just going to hold on to it forever. Yeah. Oh, so this this one's definitely a deep and tough conversation. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a little bit of a break? And if you didn't tune into the other ACA shows last week, here is what you might have missed.
Good government and good legislation for y'all.
Here's
Yeah.
hoping.
Yeah, and then this sex show can get back to hopping on the good foot and doing the bad thing. Like, we would like to not be talking about politics on it's really getting in the way of our conversation. We're just a fact of the universe, and some people that makes them uncomfortable. For the rest of us, we've learned to live with it and figure out what to do next. And sometimes that includes going on call-in shows. But other times it means loving your family and doing things that make you happy and just being a human.
They need to appeal to people in these toxic churches and bring them in and show them that there's a kinder, gentler way to be a Christian.
I gotta say, Kelly, I might go back to church if there were pool tables or air hockey, but
if we're just going to use a methodology of common sense and not give a shit about what we believe in the world, then my common sense is just better than yours. Why? Because it's common sense. Do I need to actually provide independent justification? No, because I'll just side with my common sense, because I'm irresponsible and don't care about knowing the truth.
If your view is, I have no good reason to believe this, I can't demonstrate to anybody, I just believe, cool, go get yourself a friend. I'm not your friend. I can be friendly, and I can be a prick.
And we are back. So here on the nonprofits, you may have been noticing we've been trying to do some new things. We talked a little bit about the membership. That's actually not new. That's been around for a little while. We just haven't talked about it a whole lot. What I will say is that some of you may have noticed that before each segment, there's a little info card that goes right up, right along here, right over there. That is going to hold the another link to each segment that we do. So not only can you get it down below, but you can also get it right above my head over here. So let's go into our next segment. And this time we're gonna do a little looking back.
Looking back.
This don't know why I did that. This article comes from the History Channel and details how on this day, the day of recording, not the day of broadcast, April 6th, in 1806, the Mormon Church was established by one Mr. Joseph Smith. The article gives us a little wait your turn. The article gives us a little bit of a biography on Mr. Smith. Born in Vermont in 1805, Smith claimed in 1823 that he had been visited by a Christian angel named Moroni, who spoke to him of an ancient Hebrew text that had been lost for 1,500 years. The holy text related to the story of Israelite peoples who had lived in America in ancient times. Over the course of the next 6 years, Smith dictated an English translation of this text to his wife and other scribes, and in 1830, the Book of Mormon was published. In the same year, Smith founded the Church of Christ, later known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in Fayette. Now, I have a lot to say about Mormonism, but I'm going to hand it over to Jason, seeing as he was so enthusiastic to jump straight in.
I gotta tell you, I honestly I don't know a whole lot about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, other than things that South Park taught us, or the very beginning of the Book of Mormon that was sitting in a hotel room that I stayed at once, or even the Book of Mormon itself that created my favorite song of Hasta Diga Ibawai. We can curse in other languages too. Yeah, we'll be fine. But it was so weird. So I didn't read the whole book when I was sitting in that hotel, because it was so funny to me. It was so hilarious that it started out, with somebody trying to request some civic records, then escalated into murder, and then public theft of or theft of public records in that order. And I'm just like, I'm like, I don't know where we go from there. So yeah, I mean that's the most I know about Mormonism. Except of course where it ranks on the bite model. It's not fully a cult, but there's a lot of culty things in there. So Josh, what do you know?
Again, I'm not an expert on this. I'm pretty sure that Richard is. That Richard's scholarly. I can't say the words today, and I haven't even drank. He's got books behind him. I got DVDs. So like we're coming from this from different angles.
I got both eyes.
I had like my best friend in elementary school was Mormon, and I just thought that meant that he was really nice. I didn't really know much about religions. It's just like they happen to be like the nicest people on earth, which is what they're known for. They're known for love bombing people. And because of that's the way to like knock you off your guard and make you more accepting of this kind of thing. Like these people are the nicest people on earth. I'm going to hang out with them. Maybe hear what that Joseph Smith guy is all about, which I didn't know his name until South Park. So that's that's where I got my education on this too. But the whole legend, like he was a known con artist. This is like the first religion that's made where we're like writing records on stuff. So like we can trace back what happened with Joseph Smith and see that this is bull. Like this is a story that like is flagrantly right out in the open fake. Like some religions, like you can get some wiggle room on it because we don't know about Jesus. He could be there, he could not. But this Joseph Smith, we know he made this stuff. He's up there with L. Ron Hubbard in absurdities, and like the whole translator golden plates. It's from I think it was like a foreign a form of an Egyptian that only he could translate through his seer stone. So like nobody can verify while he's reading off these plates, and just there's racism in the church. That's what I know it for more than anything is the racism. The most absurd thing I ever heard about, and I heard about this all the way back in high school. This was one of the few things I knew from before South Park told it to me, was he believed, or he wrote down, I don't think he believed any of this because he made it up, but he said that Native Americans used to be white, and if they became Mormons, they would be able to become white again. And it wasn't until recently that even black people were let into the church. It's like nice on the outside. It's got a really nice shiny wrapper. They look like they'd be great to hang out with, but this is a horrible, very like controlling religion. You can't have coffee. You can't have caffeine. This like it's controlling to the point where most of the Christians I know seem reasonable in comparison.
Yeah, they are certainly that. They oh wow, there's so much. Yeah, I've never seen the South Park episode, by the way, or the Book of Mormon
Dum
musical.
dum dum dum.
Yeah.
My knowledge of what was covered in that is very limited, down to kind of like people singing dum dum.
I mean,
dum, dum, dum.
according to that episode, this is what Mormons truly believe. Although they didn't go into the magic underwear, which, yay.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I actually don't know anything about the magic underwear. You want to shine some light on that, Richard?
Shine some light where the sun don't shine, something like that.
Yeah. when I think when the I'm not sure exactly at what stage it comes, but at some stage when you've been accepted as a Mormon, when you've had all the like love bombing and whatnot from the very, and they are absolutely lovely people to talk to, Mormons, they really are. When you've had all the love bombing and they've finally brainwashed you to go into join the cult, because I am going to call it what it is. Okay. There comes a stage where you have to wear these ridiculous undergarments that can best be described as large silken sacks. And this is something. Sick. This is something that I don't know the details of why they do it, to be quite honest with you.
Well, they get the silken sack, and like, you want to have a roll in the sack. So it's for setting up the puns. Apparently, the Mormons are love bombing and pun bombing people.
Yeah, if you'd actually seen a pair of these things in person, you would realize it's nothing to do with rolling in the sack. they are hideous.
Don't kink shame me.
Joseph Smith himself was a very interesting character in as it wasn't only
Brigham Young was the other big historical Mormon
they were
person
they were the kind of brothers in arms at the beginning, and
the torchbearer after he died. Yep.
Joseph Smith wasn't only the kind of as Jason alluded to earlier, done for fraud when he was alive, but he also died in prison. It wasn't just a case of early on in his career he was a bit dodgy and then he was a reformed character. It was, really, in and out of prison quite a lot from what I can gather. But one thing about him is it did something called the Book of Abraham, and it was some papyri that I gather he'd got from somewhere. I'm not sure of the exact details, but it claimed that they'd each translated them. And they claimed they contained writings of Abraham and Joseph in Egypt, and it translated these things as Mormon texts, and kind of gone part of the kind of conviction to his followers that it was authentic and it'd been like blessed by God. And it
wasn't the reason why there could be like little errors here and there was because he was only issuing himself as the translator of these texts instead of having it come directly through God. He's using the seer stone and everything to just translate. So he has like a something you can pull. Oh, there was a mistake here. That was just that was just bad information from the stones I was translating it from.
Oh, yeah, it's worse than that though. It's actually worse than that, because what happens is that when anybody calls him out, or when the original person, and I don't remember his name, that he was dictating the book to, lost because he was trying to check on Joseph Smith, lost the what he wrote down. So he translated it again, and there were more errors. And it's like, well, wait a minute, how is this? You've got even more translation errors. It's like, oh, well, see, what happened was you didn't have faith, and so the lack of faith caused the translation to be different. And it's like, are you kidding me? How do you not see this as the grifter that it is? But they move forward.
Yeah, the thing is, but when you're so close to something like that, people don't necessarily see it. That's how con men work. You know, when someone's convinced you to such a degree that, you know, you can excuse mistakes, then, you know, this is how stuff like this work. But the Book of Abraham specifically wasn't just a case of small translation errors. The Book of Abraham was it's been translated for us, fortunately and unfortunately for Mormons. We still have the original papyri that he claimed he translated from, and it's just an Egyptian funerary text. It's got nothing to do at all with anything. This isn't from the Book of Mormon. This isn't part of the Book of Mormon, which Jason was just talking about. This is an actual papyrus that it came into Joseph Smith's possession, and he was trying to kind of lead people to believe. But it's nothing at all to do with what he claimed it was. The guy was just a con man.
And they're trying to like revamp their image lately. We had the other article from the Associated Press where it was a bunch of, again, reading in between the lines kind of thing. And like they're saying, they're done with their homophobia. They have no problem. You're not supposed to be picking on gay people anymore. They're not going to allow gay marriage. Don't get them wrong. They're not all for that. But they're not going to be openly horrible to them, which, again, reading in between the lines, they push the fact that the racism is going down because they got a black woman in a place of in a leadership role, not a top leadership role, only over other women, because apparently women can't be in top spots of the church. It's just like all these little things that they're like trying to sell us on, that the Mormon church is updating with the times and they're good now. The racism's gone, the homophobia is gone, the misogyny's gone, and it's still there. It's just like under a different look now. It's just different phrasing. It seems like that's what churches are great at in these days, is they know how to sell it to the newspaper and sell it to the press to make it sound good. And you got to, if you're like readers, most readers today, you're reading the headlines and you're going like, this is awesome. I'm happy to hear that they're treating people with respect, but you got to read in between lines. You got to read the words that they're not saying and like what they're leaving out, and like the careful ways that they have of being smart with their words so they can still hold on to those horrible bigotry.
Yeah,
I gotta
and
say,
racism
though,
is.
I gotta say that I knew a good friend while I was in the Navy who was Mormon, was getting out, and who later came out as a trans man. And they confided into me, saying that everything about their faith, about their church that they had been in all their life, completely turned their back on him. And it was disturbing to see, because he still believed at that time, and you know, I wasn't gonna be the one to convince, you know, oh, you should just go and you know, become an atheist and all that. You know, that's a very personal and deep journey that, you know, a person needs to make. But again, that's where I was saying, is like, they would disagree with how the church has changed. Now, again, this is, you know, a little more than a decade ago, and maybe they're trying to clean up their image. But come on, the damage has already been done. Same thing with the Catholic, Christian churches, you know, and a lot of different faiths. The damage has already been done. I don't care how you try to mitigate that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how nice you are to people if you're voting against their interests. So the Mormon Church is still against gay marriage. They're going to do everything they can to stop it because it's against the religious doctrine. But they're going to say hi to them and wave to them on the streets, and that's not meaningful. You can have the nicest persona in the world and still be an a-hole, and that's kind of what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, I personally know someone who is gay, and who is in a straight marriage, who is gay and Mormon and is in a straight marriage because they feel that they went to conversion therapy through the church, anti-conversion therapy through the church, and they've been convinced that they are straight, and they're now married with a child. It's something that shouldn't happen ever. And the reason the church is being nice at the minute is very, very simple. They're hemorrhaging people. The Mormon church is hemorrhaging people, and they've gone through a kind of a case, and there was I don't know who it was, but there was an old episode of the Atheist Experience where one of the hosts said he'd been to Utah to the museum, to the Mormon Museum in Utah, and it'd been, and then a few years later he went back, and he said it had been totally rebranded, and that's my understanding as well. They've tried to push away this image of this like 18th century, 19th century Joseph Smith, new religion, and try and reinvent themselves as an authentic kind of school of Christianity. They're pushing the Jesus thing a lot more now than they used to. Jesus is becoming a very central part of what they're doing, a lot of their imagery, a lot of the marketing, because they want to rebrand as Christians, as and I don't want to commit the not true Scotsman fallacy by saying they're not Christians, because to me they are. But
They aren't Scotsmen, though.
No, they are not. But they are. Excuse me. They are trying to rebrand to get this like kind of mainstream Christian audience, I think, because they're losing so many members themselves. But going back to, I wanted to touch on racism a little bit that Josh brought up, and this touches on our last article where we were talking about the 1970s being not too far in the distant past. It wasn't until 1978, let that sink in, until black men of African descent were allowed to be ordained into the church's lay priesthood. And the church's lay priesthood simply means that you're a regular member of the church. That's all it means. So it's not like a great big, ordination ceremony. Black men were not allowed to be ordinary members of the church of LDS until 1978. They weren't allowed to get married to white women in the church, and they were excluded all in leadership roles, and they were excluded from performing rituals. And temple ordinances and endowment in the Mormon church are necessary for the highest level of salvation. So what the church was essentially saying was that black people were not good enough to achieve salvation. And that did not end till 1978. And here's the interesting thing with the Mormon church. The Mormon church is something a little bit like we know the Pope can make kind of small decisions on behalf of doctrine in the Catholic Church. The living leaders of the Mormon church are the people who decide God's word. They are direct conduits for God. And it seems funny to me that at a time in 1978 when social movement had kicked in from the late 50s and 60s, great social change had come in. Black people of African descent were being accepted much more in society. Not enough, but much more than they had been previously. And it just seems funny at that time, when this, after 10, 15 years after this great shift in social change had occurred, that God decided to speak to the leaders of the Mormon church and then decide that it was okay for black people to become Mormons, fully practicing Mormons. I mean, you couldn't write it if you tried to.
Yeah, it's just kind of how we see tap dancing on all the other shows when somebody tries to bring up, slavery in Exodus and Leviticus. So I think we're getting close to the end of this segment. But Josh, do you also have a final thought?
I am admittedly not an expert on the Mormon religion. I did some research for this. I came across articles about how they were taking natives through the slave trade and indoctrinating them that way. So they had their own way of trying to do cultural genocide against the native people only in Salt Lake City. So Mormon religion, I guess it was founded on this day, but not something to be happy about coming about.
No. All right. So I think that that's pretty much good there. Now, normally on the nonprofits, we would just go straight into the fourth segment. But tonight, and I alluded to this earlier, I'm able to make a huge announcement. So, for too long, the nonprofits has not had a merch store. Well, my friends, that all ends today. We now have a brand new merch store. Cue the air horns.
Bam.
Wait. We don't have air horns? What? You're telling me it's not in the budget? All right, viewers, listeners alike, go to tiny.cc/merch ACA and get yourself a t-shirt so we can fix that little issue. Also, you can get hoodies, mugs, stickers, and even lovely tote bags for all your holding needs. This is absolutely amazing. A long time coming, and I am so glad that I was able to bring it to you. All
About time the
right.
flagship show had some merch.
Right? Absolutely. You know what? We need to make that a t-shirt as well. The flagship booth. Can you get on that? Thank you. So let us move into our final segment. And this, it may sound strange, but I guarantee you it's true.
Strange but true.
All right. So this comes from the Huffington Post, but more than that, it was brought to our attention by a fan of the nonprofits. They submitted an article and I really liked it and said, nope, we're going to go ahead and throw this in here. And let's not, realize the fact that it was my wife who has submitted it. Anyways, so this is all about how dogs are just too good for people. So in South Carolina, there was this theistic couple that adopted a dog, a little Rottweiler, cute little thing too, as little as a Rottweiler can get.
As dogs are.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were concerned because this male dog, unneutered, did what male dogs do and humped another dog who just happened to be male as well. And so, being concerned that their dog was gay, decided to then surrender it to the ASPCA down there in Greater Charlotte. I said South Carolina. That would be North Carolina. My bad. So that it was found out that obviously the dog wasn't neutered, but it also had heartworms, was malnourished, and just was not treated like a member of the family. And under circumstances like that, you feel for the dog, and you're like, oh, well, what's next for them? Well, apparently that. perfect timing for a little interruption right there, right? So what happened was another gay couple found out about Fresco's story, took pity, and took him into his home, nursed him back to health, and renamed him Oscar after Oscar Wilde, a writer who himself was gay as well. And ultimately, Oscar is just a good boy, and the previous owners, how do you, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you say, oh, well, he's gay. It's like, no, he's a dog doing what dogs do. Um, Josh, what are your feelings on this?
Well, apparently my dog wants to be vocal about this, so I'll try to make it quick. Dogs hump things. Dogs hump absolutely everything that they can get their hinds on. I have had several dogs in my life, and every single one of them will hump any dog, regardless of gender, anything that's shaped like it looks like it'd be good to be humping. And like, from what I read up, and I actually did research on this, is I was like, can dogs be gay? And basically, they say dogs don't really have a sexuality. They just like to hump. So like, it doesn't matter the gender to them. They're like the old days of Rome. They'll hump whatever they can get. So dogs, great in that aspect. These people, terrible people. Take care of your gay dogs. I don't care if you have a problem with them. And the fact that they had worms, horrible. I can understand you. You're terrible people. Don't want your dog to be doing that kind of stuff. Take them to people that'll take care of the dog, because I saw pictures of this dog and this dog is cute. People would happily take that dog instead of letting it get abused. This makes me angry. I'm a very big animal person, so like the fact that they mistreated this dog, not just the fact that they were bigoted to it, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of anybody doing. Bigotry towards a dog. Before this article, I didn't think that would be a thing. And yeah, I'm happy that this dog's gotten taken care of by people that are actually going to love it and treat it well. Yeah, that's my piece on this. Like, treat your animals with respect.
Absolutely. I mean, there are our companions. Richard, what do you have to say on this?
Yeah, I'm glad this story had a happy ending. I've from when I first saw this story, I was kind of trying to put myself in the position of the people with this dog. Watching it approach another dog, mount it as dogs do, engage in a little bouncy as dogs do, and then looking down below the underneath the dog being the recipient of said bouncy, and seeing a gentleman's sausage there, and being absolutely disgusted by that. I don't know how. It just can't put myself in that position where I can view myself looking at that and seeing disgust in it. Anybody who's been around dogs for any length of time whatsoever knows that, as Josh said, dogs will just clamber onto anything. They will hump anything, boy, girl, mat, fish, teddy bear, whatever. They don't care. They're not bothered. And that somebody does not understand this questions to me why they should be in ownership of a dog in the first place.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, so I only rescue dogs. The dog that I had previous to this one, we actually had to pay for her heartworm treatment, and we got to see firsthand what that did to her. And if nobody knows, for heartworm treatments, you are poisoning your animal and hoping that the dog wins. That's essentially what it is. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, but your dog becomes very lethargic. It becomes very weak, and there have been dogs who died from heartworm treatments. Now, less have died from the heartworm treatments than die from heartworms, so you definitely have to have that. But heartworm treatments are so inexpensive compared to what you would do to just neglect the dog. It costs so much more to neglect an animal, just like it costs so much more to neglect people. So who how else do these people, like, if they're willing to treat a dog like this? What if they have kids? What would they do in that situation? I shudder to think what they would do.
Well, we've heard of families giving up their kids because they're gay and like basically acting like they don't exist, like they're dead to them. I think it's probably, well, it'd be harder for me to do that to a dog, but I could never disown anybody that I care about, and dogs are part of the family. Your family is your kids. It is your dogs. Doesn't matter what they love. Dogs love everything. You got to take care of them. You got to love them. You got to treat them well. Take care of them. I don't understand how they can do this without any guilt. That would be more than any money for me, is the guilt I would feel about neglecting a dog. Like that's unconscionable to me, to that they treat this dog so poorly, and it has to go through this treatment with luckily a couple that cares about him. But yeah, it's a gross thing. It's having a hard time even keeping focus because it's just like angry.
And yeah, and again, I want to remind everybody that as terrible as the previous couple was, this, it was 100% a good, happy ending. A great job to the GCSPA for what they did. And I would also like to mention that on the day that this is airing, April 10th, is the foundation of the ASPCA itself. Who have been instrumental in helping a lot of different animals, and definitely one of the better places to, get a pet, because it's more rescue. You're not buying. I know we're not supposed to do call to actions, but I would encourage people to adopt or rescue rather than try to buy designer. You get a much better animal that way. Tends to be healthier, provided that they get through some of their medical treatments, because I mean, they get what they can get, and sometimes, a lot of times, it's off the streets. Richard, what else have you got?
Yeah, this is. I mean, we have the RSPCA, of course, in Britain, not the ASPCA, but they perform pretty much the same function. They go out and rescue dogs, try and bring prosecutions to bad pet owners as well, which is I don't know if the ASPCA does that, but it's the RSPCA has no legal kind of they can't prosecute off their own back. They have to go through the normal legal systems, but they do try. So that's a large part of the work, trying to secure convictions against bad pet owners, and stop these people from owning animals ever again. Because if you're going to mistreat an animal, like Josh was saying, is to a lot of people, there's no difference between animals and children whatsoever if they've got them in their care, and to mistreat an animal, you shouldn't be allowed to be in a position where you can have more animals to mistreat. Because if you're going to be in that kind of person, who's to say you're not going to do it again? Who's to say you're not going to do it to any children you might have?
Well, how many times can they return a dog because they keep getting gay ones? Like, that's gonna be a problem that comes up if they keep trying it.
I mean, thankfully, with the female dogs, they don't tend to go lesbian, but
I have some
tend
dogs
not
in my
to.
past
I
that
said,
say
tend not
otherwise.
to, but I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just you see it more from the male dogs.
But did we say the guy that founded the ASPCA, Henry Berg, like what he did? He saw he was made the Russian diplomat by Lincoln, so that's how far back this goes. He saw how horrible they were treating the horses over there, and basically came back to America. It's like, we're gonna start taking care of some animals now, and he was like in the courts taking care of this. He wasn't just the guy who's like, yeah, let's take care of some animals and throwing it off on some random person working underneath him. He started this company, or this ASPCA, and then he was in the courtrooms all the time, making sure that horses were getting taken care of, and just like fighting for animal rights. And the fact that this guy was a man of action brings me a lot of respect. And the fact that I didn't hear about him before I started researching for this segment seems sad. This seems like something we should be talking about in schools more than like, screw Christopher Columbus's day. Let's give this guy his own day.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, especially screw Christopher Columbus, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in October. Richard?
Yeah, just piggybacking on what Josh had just said, I think all too many times in history, the good people and the important people, the real important people who do things of note that can help the human race, are brushed aside and kind of fall by the waysides. And and the prominent ones are the ones who don't necessarily do the good stuff. The ones who are rewarded, not always the ones who do the good stuff. And it's it wouldn't hurt any of us, like Josh has done on this occasion, to have a little look back and try and decipher for ourselves who the real kind of deserved people from history are. Certainly not Joseph Smith, or if we're going to put the ASPCA chap in prominence, he should certainly have a more prominent place in history than some of the other characters we've talked about on today's episode, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're getting close to the end. Let's go ahead and get some final thoughts on this. Josh?
I'm a dog lover. Unfortunately, I have a boxer that's just been diagnosed with lung cancer. So like that's been like the worst thing that's going on for me. So I appreciate people that are taking care of animals and making sure that the animals that can get taken care of and get the lives that they deserve. This guy sounds like a hero. This couple that adopted Oscar Wilde, which I think I'm actually a big fan of Portrait of Dorian Gray, so I love that name. There's horrible people at the front of this, but this is one of the few times I'm known for being a pessimist. This couple is fantastic. They're doing great things in the world, helping this dog. This guy Henry Berg, fantastic person in history I wish I knew about before I had to read up for this segment. I think we can sign off on this one saying that there's some good happening in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we very much need it. Richard, your final thoughts?
It's always nice to see a happy ending to a story, especially a story where kind of suffering's been involved in any aspect whatsoever. I think it's just adds that little bit of like je ne sais quoi when you get that little bit extra when it's an ironic ending as well, and the dog was got rid of because they thought it was gay and it's ended up with a loving gay couple. That to me is just the icing on the cake. It's just tops the story off beautifully. I love that little bit of irony at the end.
Oh yeah, you could not write that even if you tried. And I also am a pet lover as well. I have a 4-year-old husky who's absolutely gorgeous. Everybody who sees her loves her. Complete opposite of me. So, and I will say that at the time of this recording, she's actually getting ready for surgery to have some teeth removed. Because we feel like she was in a puppy mill and chewed on her cage and damaged her teeth. It's not life threatening. It's not. She's not even bothered by it. But there is a little bit of an infection there that could turn into something else. And instead of ignoring it, I already paid $2,000 to get some teeth removed about 6 months ago. I'm going to be paying another $2,000 by the time this set is taken out, and hopefully she'll be recovering nice and comfortable. And we're going to keep taking care of her because we are the steward of her. Josh, you're the steward of your boxer. Richard, you're the steward of, I don't remember what your dog was.
Is a Lakeland Terrier Cross.
Lakeland Terrier Cross.
Yeah.
We are their stewards, and how we treat them, how we care for them is not a reflection upon them. It's not a reflection upon their sexuality. It's not a reflection upon, who and what they are. It is a reflection upon us. And so we need to take care of them because they'll also take care of us. Maybe not necessarily as guard dogs, maybe not necessarily as service dogs, but they will always take care of us because they're just good boys and girls.
Couldn't agree more with that. Anything talk about dogs, you're gonna get me on your side there. So you just moved up to like my favorite host of the show, Jason.
Oh, thank you. In spite of all my screw ups today, thank you.
You went out praising dogs and like talking about how, unlike this couple, or the initial couple, not the gay couple that adopted Oscar Wilde, you're willing to put out the money to take care of your dog. Like, it can be hardship. My boxer is actually at my dad's house, so he's the one that's taking care of it. He's put so much money towards taking care of that boxer, and it's worth it though. Unfortunately, it's reached a point where it's just a matter of time. But like, she's fighting off and as long as she can to get as many moments as she can with us.
So this has been a great show. We've got some really great discussions in, some getting a little heavy and just ending on such a great note. And thank you both for being here with me, and being here, allowing me to make the announcement for our store, which is going to be so great. But I want to say that, go ahead and join our fan social media outlets. You can find most of the nonprofits host in the atheist community of Discord by going to tiny.cc/ACD Discord, and on Facebook at tiny.cc/FBNP. Reminder, every Friday you're going to see a post, typically by me, of all the articles that we have talked about today. And if you want to support the show, and we've talked about the membership, we've talked about the shop, you can also become a patron at tiny.cc/PatreonNP. And we do value your feedback. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Right down there in the comments, go ahead and let us know. But you can also email us at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. So I want to, again, I want to thank my hosts here. I want to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242, or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.